Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. We are now going over Card Merchant Hamilton Regionals. This is the regionals that take place also on July 13th. This is number 2 of 7 that we have to cover from last weekend. And going over this 46-man event regional, the breakdown of the meta is as such. We had 6 Water Nico, 6 Fire Silvie, 6 Wind Tristan, 6 Fire Hybrid Merlin, 5 Miracle Bots, 3 Wind Tonys, 3 Fire Rye, 2 Fire Luxem Zander, 2 Wind Silvie, 2 Water Silvie, 2 Lorraine Allies, 1 Water Zander Allies, 1 Normal Silvie, and 1 Allen Beasts. And then into the topic that we're going to go over here shortly, our topic breakdown is the follow. We ended up having 1 Water Zander Allies, 2 Water Nico, 1 Fire Silvie, 1 Fire Luxem, 1 Wind Silvie, 1 Miracle Bots, and 1 Wind Tony Allies. So for those who are keeping track, Water Zander was 100% conversion rate. Water Nico was about a 20% conversion rate. Fire Silvie was I think also a 20% conversion rate, if not a little bit less. Fire Luxem ended up getting a 50% conversion rate. Wind Silvie ended up getting a 50% conversion rate. Miracle Bots got a 33% conversion rate. And then Wind Tony Allies ended up getting a 50% conversion rate as well. So this is sort of the breakdown for the meta, and let's go ahead and get right into the decks. Before we get back to the rest of that video, I want to let everyone know that I have started a brand called Murasaki Altair. This is a brand dedicated to TCG accessories as well as apparel, sort of based by weebs for weebs. It's one of those things. We just released our Kingslayer, otherwise known as Merlin/Lorraine set. The drop is now live on the website, which you can find in the description below. We have hoodies, we have t-shirts, we have stickers, and we have sleeves. So like I said, check that out below. The link is in the description. The first deck, place number 1, is Zoto Mayo Enjoy. So this is number 1 at the regional. Congrats, they did a top 8 cup for this event, and they ended up getting first. They didn't place first in the rankings overall before the top cup, but they did win top cup overall. So this is going back to the old school Water Zander that we talked about before. So this is Spirit of Water. You have Zander 1 and Zander 2. Scepter Lumina is in here with the backup charger. Crimson Protective Trinket, mostly for all the wind decks you're expecting. Granger Series Ring, Mercenaries Blade, which is new from MRC, which you're going to get the blade for the prep counter. Nullify Lantern, Poison Dagger, Terrafring, and Wind Resonance Bauble. In the main decks where it gets things a little bit interesting here, we do have 3 dungeon guides, which is really interesting choice, especially in these lists, as you're only going to level 2, so it's a really quick, easy 4 damage if you need it. You have 3 Deflecting Edges, 1 Esteem Knight, 4 Gildas, 2 Incapacitate, which is such a good bring from the Recollection decks, because in fact it gives you a go ahead and give you a counter spell. 4 Lurking Assailants, 2 Reprograms, 2 Sable Remnants, 4 Sadies, 4 Thieving Cuts, 1 Chain Sharpshooter, and 1 Woodland Squirrels. And in the water cards, you have 4 Crazy Chopper, 3 Fracturized, 3 Freezing Hail, 2 Frostbind, 4 Frostborn Paladin, 3 Nia, 2 Speed Driver, 3 Snow Fairy, 2 Song of Frost, 3 Stillwater Patrol. So this list is sort of really hovering more into the ally gameplay versus the tempo. You do have some of those tempo cards still in here with Freezing Hail, Fracturize, and Frostbind. But this deck is pretty much guaranteeing you more likely to draw more of your allies. That's going to do a lot more on board state, not really relying on that 2-3 body that most people come to expect at this point when it comes to these types of decks. But with the sideboard, you have an Eye Argus, Sword of Seeking, Verdane Protection Kit, 2 Conceal, 1 Incapacitate, 1 Reprogram, 1 Scavenger Anchorage, and 1 Song of Nurturing. This deck is very, very interesting. It's a very interesting take on the water tempo decks, especially seeing a card like Conceal that people haven't really seen ever. In fact, it gives allies control stealth on the turn, so that your allies go as 5 next turn if you need to. It is also a fast speed, and then you can go ahead and swing in for more damage if you need to later on as well. So this is a really interesting build. Congrats over here to Zoto for going ahead and getting first place with it. And we're going into their opponent, which is D's, which got number two, which is one of the Water Nico decks. So we talked about the Water Nico deck heavily into the last video. We do have a couple of variances from before, though. This one is running pretty much overall the same material deck, outside of adding something like the Tide Proclamation to prevent draws versus something like Merlin. But then you have cards like Turbocharging here, because you are running the backup charger. You're going to get extra 3 draws, the only 1 normal card you have in your entire main deck. It's still 3 Serene Decrees. You still have Diffuse Black, Fractal Range, Fractalized Freezing Steel, and Frostbinds. Everything that's on the board is sort of still the same. This one is running Lunette, though. Lunette is on the field because of the fact you get to go ahead and keep your opponent's allies tapped. Gives you a chance to go ahead and clean up with something like your own Frostborn Paladin, for example. They're going to clean up the board state. So you don't really have that pressure coming into you for most of the turns as you're going to clear up their allies. And you sometimes usually keep the balance if you're lucky. But you have 2 Song of Frost as well in here for the mirror matchup. 4 Storm of Thorns, 3 Tidal Sweeps. If in case you lose one of your weapons, you can still get them with your Lash counters. 4 Vapor Jet Shield Bearers, and 2 Wave Art Protector, which is a good taunt unit with floating memory at the 1/4 body that's a little bit harder to deal with. On the sideboard, you have the Terrafring, Verdane Protector Trinket, Incapacitate, 1 Turbocharge, 2 Stealth Sharpshooter, 2 Frostbind, 2 Song of Frost. So what's interesting here is that we end up having cards like Incapacitate, which is a 4-cost counterspell. When you're already running something like Serene Decree and Frostbind, you still have Viridian Protecting here, which is normal for the mirror. Terrafring as well for allied decks. This is normal. 1 extra Turbocharge, which is really interesting because the fact you only have one way to get power cells, I'm pretty sure if I'm looking at this list properly, and that's only with your backup charger, otherwise it doesn't discard it if you already utilize it early on. 2 cell sharpshooters, which I imagine is going to be the other way to go ahead and get the power cells, especially if you bring in the cell sharpshooter, and then you can maybe sideboard in that extra turbocharge, so you go ahead and get those power cells with a little bit extra use. But you got to remember too, these power cells can be used to bump off cards like your Vaporjet Shield Bearer. It does become a 3/3 unit with attack, because the fact that it is an automaton ally. You have 2 more Frostbinds, and you also have 2 Song of Frost in here as well. This is really interesting in the Nico list. Congratulations to these, and going into deck number 3 now, we do over here have Holy Samurai. Holy Samurai is one of the Fire Silvie players. This is a really interesting take because we end up having a lot more Fire Silvie than expected. Norm Silvie was sort of becoming the normal, and the Fire Silvie has really dropped off as people really wanted to utilize multiple slimes as much as possible with normal Silvie, especially with the green and blue that becomes, green and blue. That was horrible. Wind and water that becomes activated. So your Spirit of Fire Silvie, everything else is sort of still the same across the board. This one's running a Bauble Mending to go ahead and give one target non-human ally +1 attack, +1 health. And then you go ahead and draw a card, keeps your allies sort of alive. On the main board, you have Baby Gray Slimes, which we're calling Dungeon Guides, Escape the Wreckage, Limit Slime, and Reprogram. This is all normal. But the point of running the Fire Slime is that you can run in Creative Shock, and you also have Cremation Ritual to go ahead and sacrifice your red slimes to pretty much get the board clear with 3 2s. If not a 4 3, if you get the buff counter from our early Sylvie level. And you can go ahead and get a whole bunch of board clears with the Cremation Ritual sacrificing the red slime. You have Increasing Danger as well as Slime Eruption that you can still run as normal, but Increasing Danger is no way to go ahead and filter your deck and get the card draw to try and turbo out your game plan a little bit faster than normal Sylvie does. Then you have 4 Storm Slime, 4 Ethereal Slimes, 3 Lustrous Slime, 3 Slime King, and 1 Vampiric Slime. So this one's heavily playing into the big taunt unit. And you go ahead and use cards like Cremation Ritual to also sacrifice your Lustrous Slime to get the on recover effect. Same thing with Slime King, because Slime King's also an on leave, so if you escape the wreckage or Cremation Ritual it, you do lose your big taunt unit, but you can get multiple instances of Storm Slime on the field if you're sacrificing your Slime King that has multiple Storm Slimes underneath it. And in the sideboard, you have 1 Creative Protective Trinket. Wow, creative. Crimson Protective Trinket, 1 Quicksilver Girl, 2 Beast of Frenzy, 1 Escape the Wreckage, 2 Incapacitates, 1 Resolute Sand, and 3 Target Slimes. So imagine Resolute Sand's brought in for the most of the ally matchup as well as sort of the mirror. Beast of Frenzy is good for, once again, board clearing, a little bit gimmicky, but it is what it's used for. 2 Incapacitates to run the counter spells. And then you have 1 Escape the Wreckage and 1 Quicksilver Grail if you need to go ahead and protect stuff if you're trying to deal with cards like Reduce the Ash or cards like Spurn. And you have 1 Crimson Protector Trinket for the wind, sort of the matchups with Miracle Bots or Tristan. But going into deck number 4 now, we have the man, the myth, the legend on Fire, Luxem Zander. So Fire Luxem Zander, sort of normal game plan we talked about all throughout ALC. There's a couple new cards that were brought in though. You do have an Orb of Choking Fumes that is brought in this list. You do have cards like Incapacitate that's brought in because of the fact this is new. It does become a 2-drop counter target non-action card. Or negate target action. Negate target action card activation. Say that 5 times fast. Fast. We're doing good here today, ladies and gentlemen. But with that being said, we do have 3 reprograms, 3 Resident Students, 4 Squatter Skies, 3 Stalwart Shootmates, 3 Thieving Cuts, 2 Turbocharge, 3 Vanish from Sights. Pretty much the normal list that we're expecting with only 4 Creative Shocks. With the top end of the Luxem that you have, the Excaliburs, the Gleaming Cuts, the Light Reaver's Assault, the Luxem Sight, and Uncover the Plot. The main game plan to go ahead and stall the game out, and then being able to combo off with cards like Light Reaver's Assault to get in multiple instances of damage. The problem is with this list lately is that you're running into Nikos. Congrats getting number 4 with this list, especially with Nikos running around. It's overall a really impressive stat line, because Nico usually ends up trying to heal through most of his damage as a whole, with cards like their Magebane Lash. In the sideboard, you have Fire Resonance Valve and Wind Resonance Valve that get brought in depending on the matchup. 1 Gloam Spire Lance, 1 could be brought in for the Dustlike Communion, 2 D-level Sylvie. 1 Reprogram, 1 Thieving Cut, and 1 Vanish from Sight to go and gain the stealth if you need to, or play a little more aggro with the Thieving Cut. Congratulations to the myth, the legend himself, for getting slot number 4. And in slot number 5, we have Cheesy. So Cheesy is our other Nico player. This is more to the Nico list that we're used to seeing. I don't think there's anything special in here that we're not used to seeing. We have Smoke Bombs, you have Borg Swords, we have Grand Crusader's Ring, and the Terrafrang. Nothing really special in here. And then looking into the main board, it's pretty much everything we expect to see as well. This one's running a little bit different though, because you're running the Primordial Ritual. So Primordial Ritual does require you to sacrifice an ally for the cost, and does let you mill 2 cards type of deck, and it's another card with Floating Memory. So more likely you try and get this to go ahead and mill. More often than that, you're not trying to get rid of your Frostborn Paladins or even your Vaporjet Shield Bearers, even your Snow Fairies. You are usually okay at times getting rid of your Gravewater Protector because of the fact it's pretty much gaining you a card with extra Floating Memory. So in this case, Primordial Ritualing your Protector does end up giving you 2 Floating Memory into your graveyard to then cast cards like Ravishing Finale. In the sideboard, you have Viridian Protector Trinket for the mirror, 4 Reprogram, 3 Song of Frost, again for the mirror more likely brought in, and cards like the Wind Robots. You have 2 Stillwater Patrols to deal with stealth units, and then you have 2 Torrential Blasts more likely to deal with the Deer. Pretty much is the main way that Water is able to deal with those Merlin and the Deer decks with Incarnate Magistrate, because Torrential Blasts usually have a lot of Water cards in your grave, and if there's no lantern on the field, Torrential Blast is going to get to hit in for 10, killing the Deer, and then you get to go ahead and then swing in with your Icebound Slam or your Ravishing Finale. So congrats again for Cheesy of getting to number 5. And then number 6, we have Eidos, I think it's Eidos. Yeah, Eidos. On Spirit of Wind Silvie. So pretty much like the Fire Silvie with the same overall gameplay, and this one instead is running boots and paws versus ears. So this one does get sort of punished by that Dustlight Community gameplay we saw before in the Luxem Zander deck. This one is running 4 Academy Guides, 4 Dungeon Guides, trying to get the level up in other ways without really going negative on cards. 4 Engineering Signs, 4 Forest Cakes, 4 Reprograms, 1 Turbocharge, and 3 Beast of Frenzy. And sort of the main game plan of the Wind one is that you pretty much want to be able to flicker your green Simulat and put buff counters on multiple allies and make a really big board state that's really hard to deal with. You have cards like Reclaim, you have Zephyr going to flicker your cards as well, you have AC Protector to bounce if you need to, and you have Baby Green Slime to go ahead and suppress an item or a weapon. Then the end game plan is you still have Storm Slime and Ethereal Slime. Pretty much want to get Green Slime big buff counters onto your Ethereal Slime, again with a big stealth unit that go ahead and swings for multiple instances of damage. In the sideboard here, you have 1 Nullifying Lantern, 1 Safeguard Amulet, 4 Cry for Help, 3 Stifling Trap, and 2 Twilight Slime. The Cry for Help is really interesting. What's the look for tech at this point? Because when you're dealing with Miracle Bots that want to give them big attacks, Cry for Help will let you retarget the attack to one of your allies, which it does end up saving you a lot of damage. It saves you more than cards like Resolute Stand does. And the fact it only costs 1, you don't have to worry about the instance, the secondary instance. As well, that ally gets an extra +1 health, so sometimes it can eat up to 2 attacks if you needed to, if you have multiple instances of this card in your hand. But congrats, Eidos, for getting slot number 6. Going to number 7, we have Yamakin. Yamakin is on Spirit Lorraine Miracle Bots. This is a list we talked about heavily before on the channels a few times. The fact that we have Charge Mannequin and Joker is pretty much a list that's pretty much dedicated to running multiple cards of automatons. And then the main game plan is to go ahead and get manufactured cells on the board, so you get those power cells down, buff up your big automaton allies, something like Joker or something like Rose, and then you go ahead and untap them with Rallied Advance or Second Wind. And then you get to get in for multiple instances of attacks, and you're dealing with 6, 12, 18 damage with a single unit as you keep on resetting that unit and getting multiple attacks in. Which is overall the game plan of this deck. This one also runs Pierce. This one is also human, but does also get to go ahead and suppress target item weapon. Only if it is distant though, so I'm not too sure how often we are getting distant in this deck. I think the only card really have that does it is Skirting Step, which is a really interesting take because Skirting Step is a very interesting card because target becomes distant. If it's imbued, for the next 1 damage, that'll be dealt to target to that unit this turn. You get to draw a card. So to replace itself, prevent 1 damage, then you're going to make the unit distant. When in this case, you're going to go ahead and make something like Rose. But going into the sideboard, you have 4 Evasive Maneuvers, 3 Reprograms, 1 Armor Valkyrie, 2 Dream Fairy, 2 Purse, 1 more Train Hawk to deal with the stealth units, and 2 Verdict's Degree for the mirror matchup. And we're going to go into deck number 8, Wu Young, which is, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, sorry if I'm not. I'm horrible when it comes to names. We have Spirit of Wind Tony. So Spirit of Wind Tony is pretty much the old allies list. We are running the normal backup charger. We have Bulwark Sword. You have Baubles to go ahead and draw multiple cards. Tides Lock to prevent draws. And you're running Gildas, Heavy Swing, Wordland Scrolls, Ace and Protector, Tune the Winds, Dream Fairy, Eternal Magistrate, Shimmercook Assassin, Vigilant Sentry, Wind Rider Vanguard. The main plan is just to play a lot of these good cost 3 drop 2-3 units. Buff them with cards like not favorable winds. With cards like Attune the Winds to get a buff count on every single unit, and then you just get in for multiple big swings a turn, especially when you have cards like Gildas swinging in for balance. Heavy Swing comes in for 6, sometimes a little bit more if you're going level 2, which I don't think this list is running level 2, but that's sort of the game plan of what these lists go ahead and play around. Inside we have Crimson Protector Trinket for the mirrors, 1 Nullifying Lantern more likely to deal with the Nico decks, 1 Viridian Protect Trinket again for the Nico decks and water matchups, 2 Reprograms, 2 Scavenging Raccoons going to eat some cards from our Floating Memory, and 2 Verdict's Degree as well. But with that being said, everyone, this one is another meta report for the archive. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. We're going to go ahead and try and finalize a couple more this week, if not going into next week. So keep your eyes out for that as we go ahead and get those finalized. And with that being said, everyone has a good one, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.